It was 1999. I was in high school, was senior year of high school in Long Island. My ex-boyfriend, Danny, we were actually on our way home from Pride for Youth, which is an organization on Long Island where at the time young teenage gays can congregate and be themselves. And it was myself, my ex-boyfriend, and a friend of ours walking to the train station. A car pulled up calling us faggots, and my ex-boyfriend, who does not take that lying down, goes, "I'll show you, faggot, why don't you get out of the car?" They then pulled around, surrounded us. They got out of the car, they took out umbrellas, like 2 umbrellas out of the car, and they started beating him down with umbrellas. And I, trying to protect my other friend, who's a girl, just stood by it. Unfortunately, that happened because they were ready to come after us. And I knew that my ex-boyfriend is a guy and he can handle himself, even if it meant taking a beating. But I had to witness that. Lucky for me, nothing ever happened to me or my friend, but it was a horrible event. The guys were arrested. The guys were, I think, charged, not with a hate crime at the time, but they were charged with assault.
The first public hate crime was when I got jumped from by coming out after I came out fully in high school. It was just horrible. Everybody, papers, name calling, books, you name it, was thrown at me. To this day, I still have that scar. But it reminds me of the fact that I'm still strong and I'm still going. But that was my first encounter for harassment. I still get them today, which is horrible.
Whatever is different about someone, it becomes the most obvious thing to you when you're angry at them, or if you're in a mob mentality, you know? If you're in a big group of people and you're all riled up, suddenly whatever is different about someone, I was walking with my little sister, who's 2 years younger than me, my sister and 2 or 3 of her girlfriends. And we're walking home from the park. We're only about a block away from home. And suddenly, we knew these kids, Peter and Dan Neshedevi. They lived in this house right behind these trees. And from those trees, rocks are being thrown at me. And a rock hit my face, my body. I don't remember where they were hitting me, but they were hitting me. They were throwing rocks at me and hitting me. In that, if you're gay, your thought isn't, "Oh my God, I'm being hit with rocks." Your thought is, they're throwing rocks at me because I'm gay. And I was more embarrassed for my little sister and her friends to know that I was being treated this way because I'm gay, that I said to her, I'm like, "Oh my God, they're throwing rocks at us." And my sister said, "They're throwing rocks at you." I don't know that she'll ever remember that she said that, but Kristen, you said it. You said it, and it fucking hurt. That was probably the worst. That was probably the worst. But yeah, there's that.
I would have to say from grammar school on is when I started being very uncomfortable with who I was, and being labeled a tomboy when you're very young is okay to a certain point, but when they realize that you don't ever want to dress up, you don't want to put makeup on, you don't want to curl your hair, you're always wearing corduroys and t-shirts, I think most of the, I don't want to call it harassment, but most of the odd behavior from other people came in my early teen years from parental figures, where they want you to be a certain way, their expectations are a certain way, and I would have a parent saying, "You should dress up. If you're going out, you should look like a girl. Why do you always wear those clothes?" Or they would actually take clothes and get rid of them so that I couldn't wear them. But yeah, I would say going to school was as much of an issue as it was with friends and home. They knew something was different, so why don't you conform? That's the attitude, is why don't you just conform? And I've been, doing, work, driving trucks for 20 years. That's, as far as discrimination, I come up across more discrimination just being female by birth in a traditionally masculine workforce. So as far as sexuality, again, most people assume I'm straight, and that bothers me. But being picked on, name calling, anything like that, I don't get that at work.
I've been acting since high school. Like, it started with high school, and then I made my way to Theater of the Oppressed, and here we go. I would say I'm gonna round up to 4 years, because I think I started high school, probably about like 3 to 4 years. Within that time span, we're working with them.
Girl, I'm trying to get a job. There are too many drag queens. Here's the thing, nowadays, I mean, look, the more drag queens, the better, but like, when I started doing drag about 7 years ago, you couldn't just go on YouTube. First off, when I started doing drag 7 years ago, YouTube came out in 2004. I started doing drag in 2009. When I started doing drag, you had to learn drag from other drag queens. Nowadays, you can sit home alone in your room, and without interacting with another single human being, you can become a drag queen. You can become better at, anyone can become better at makeup than me in a short amount of time, but like, Violet Chachki, who won season 7 of RuPaul's Drag Race, sat at home, watched drag tutorials on YouTube, practiced makeup on herself, and did not leave her house in drag until she was polished and perfect. So like, there's a lot more access now to exploring drag than there ever has been.
As far as talk show hosts, I think there's very few, but I also, I mean, unless you're on Logo or Here, those networks do have them. Personally, I think I am the up and coming talk show host who's openly gay. But I think people are just not making it about, they're not making their sexuality about that. They're just not attaching labels. I have been doing the Strike Zone since 2009. Started as a 10-minute editorial segment, and then in 2011 it became a 30-minute show, and then I've been doing it ever since. And yes, while my focus is LGBT, I do talk about everything. So while I do identify to the gay community, I also identify as everything else.
Let me tell you, I read a story once about a team of business women, all trans, in San Francisco. That was so sexy. I love that. Woo! They all look good, they making good money, and they run a company. I love that. I would love that. That's very hot. It's empowering, because you're making money and you are who you are and you're not hiding nothing. Very empowering.
Being gay has a culture on its own right. They know it when it comes to fashion, when it comes to interior design, when it comes to class. So sometimes when like Joey my best friend, for example, says something about fashion, I go, oh my God, you're so gay. Like, that's just a joke. It's not really, I don't think that's offensive. The word faggot, that is offensive.
I prefer faggot, specifically if my hair is being pulled. I think the word faggot can be really fucking hot, and the right guy is using it at the right time.
That word fag, it can be used for like gay men, and it's a negative meaning for a negative word. It makes you so angry. Why would you use it?
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I use one particular social media where you can change your name anytime you want to, and one of them I'd put on there, gayer than you.
I think the word's so funny, but I think it's because I get to use it. I get to take the power out of it. I get to play around with that word. There's a lot of freedom in getting to use a word that's always been used to scare me. Now, if I'm walking down the street at night and I hear someone say that word, which this happens to me anyway, maybe once every 2 years, maybe every 3 years. It's very rare that I ever hear someone use an anti-gay slur towards me. But when the wrong person's saying it, it's terrifying. And here's the thing that people have to consider about using that word. If you're not a faggot, you don't get to say faggot. And here's why. It's kind of like using the word tranny, or using the N-word, or using the word bitch to talk to a woman. If you've never actually heard that word and then feared for your life, if you've never heard that word connected with violence towards you because you're that word, then it's not your word and you don't get to use it. But if you want to use that word and you want to take the power out of it and like reclaim that word, it's yours to do. As far as saying things are gay, again, I can say it. If you're not gay, you can't say that's so gay. I can say it.
And if you're feeling attacked, then of course you're going to be on the defensive, and name calling is going to hurt you, but sticks and stones, you know.
A friend explained it to me. It was something out of Britain, you know, a pile of sticks, and they burned the sticks, and that's a British term that they used.
I do know the origin of faggot. Faggot was actually traditionally used by the British to light up a cigarette, a skinny cigarette. However, it was known because they used to light up gay people on fire. So that's where that term comes from.
Fag actually comes from the word feminine. So I'm trying to think, for example, I speak Icelandic. I'm only saying this so that you're impressed with me. In Icelandic, fagur, F-A-G-U-R, fagur means beautiful. Fallegur is like beautifully. So F-A-G in Icelandic means beautiful. But the reason it means beautiful is from the feminine, right? It's not used to say someone's like really handsome or hot. Fallegur is like saying, it would be like in Spanish if you're calling someone like, oh, eres muy lindo, right? It's more like a pretty, right? So fag basically comes from the feminine. In other languages, it means other things. In English slang, like over in England, fag refers to a cigarette. Now, why does that mean that kind of a cigarette, as opposed to a cigar? A cigar is considered very masculine. A cigarette, small cigar, right? By being small, by being demure, by being dainty, it is considered more feminine. A cigarette is considered more feminine than a cigar. That's why they call it a fag, because to smoke a fag means a feminine version of a cigar. So the word fag simply means feminine. And what's interesting is that people would use the word fag to refer to gay people. And it's interesting how all homophobia is rooted in hating femininity and hating the feminine.
Which is kind of weird, right? You have faggot, which is derogatory, and then being gay, which is not. And traditionally, of course, being gay by dictionary means you're happy. So
the way it's enunciated is the key, you know, that's important. If somebody says it in a derogatory tone, the tone says everything. You can say something nice, but in the tone, the way you say it, it's not nice. So with that said, I don't like that. I don't like being mischaracterized, or even if, all right, so say you're bi, gay, or whatever. The majority of people on the planet have some predilection towards something sexual. They may not admit it, but I think the reason why people fight and resist so bad is because there's something within them they desire, they like it, but society has a peer issue and they allow that to affect their thinking and their actions.
As far as family, I think they just thought that it was odd. I don't think they understood that, you know, I was going through some kind of change or curiosity, or just trying to find out who I was. And so I would not hesitate to bring a female home that I felt was a girlfriend, but of course we had to play it off and not really do anything in front of anyone. I had no issue personally having them there. Of course, you could feel the tension in the room.
Oh, well, you might. I don't have that much to do with that many of them, but the ones that do know, you know, like they know my Glenda is a guy and a girl, you know, and the ones that do know, they're fine with it. My mother's cool with it. She's almost 90. Doesn't bother her. I didn't know that much of the difference between straight and gay. To me, people were people. That's the way I was brought up. It wasn't until the 1970s, when I was in my teens, that I saw something like Hot with Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe, and I thought it was a cute movie because here you got guys in dresses, and I'd like to find a guy like that in a dress, you know, someday. I was 14, but I think that was my start of liking guys in dresses. And I don't know where I fall in because, quote unquote, I'm not gay. I'm not a lesbian. But I embrace the lesbian and gay community, the transgender community, the bisexual community, the in question community. It doesn't matter to me. These are people that I love.
My mom is the most accepting woman in the world, not just for me being gay, but also for being HIV positive. So she has been my complete supporter since I came out back in 2008. My father is not accepting of it. My father and I have a strained relationship because of it. And beyond that, I have sisters that accept it. And honestly, it's all that matters. As long as my mom and my two sisters, who I care about deeply, accept it, I really could care less who else in the family accepts it or not.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't care. I don't give a fuck if they're okay with me being gay. I want them to fight for equality. Like, I really feel like my family had a chance to have an awakening as a result of having a gay son. Not just a gay son, a gay cousin, gay uncle. My dad has a gay brother. They've had every opportunity to join this fight. And I think that they feel they have, but like their version of fighting, at least as I've seen it, I've never seen it demonstrated any other way, but their way of fighting is putting an HRC bumper sticker on their car, or like telling another parent at a cocktail party who didn't like their gay son, telling them, how dare you, that's your child, and blah, blah, blah. Great. That is activism. I don't want to discount that. But like, it can't stop there. And I am mad. I am mad that people in my family have not like fought alongside me for my rights. So yeah, they're okay with it. Good for them. I'm angry, by the way. Like, this is 3 weeks after Trump was voted to be our president. So like, you're interviewing a very like pissed off version of me who's fucking fed up with a lot of the bullshit going on. So.
Oh God, none of them. So they're all Jehovah's Witnesses, and you know how Jehovah's Witnesses are. Because they're like, oh, do this, do that, do that, and the third. You're supposed to be hetero. You're supposed to be in a woman's role. You're supposed to be under God. And you know how things are with religion. Follow the Bible, follow by the Bible, and do what you're supposed to do. So no, there's nobody in my family, nobody at all, who accepted for being gay.
Actually, it's very good that you say that, because we doing this film and you blow up. Oh yeah, there's people in my family who, I would say a third of my family is cool. Like, my aunties are nice. My brother, who says he loves me regardless. But my mother is adamant. My sister says I'm going to hell. And there's, I don't know, it's just not all of them per se, you know. I'm working on positioning myself in an economic status so that it doesn't matter what they say. See, because when you're at that point financially, you're pulling strings. No one's going to say but so much, because they're going to be depending on you. They're going to spend your money, whether you're gay or not.
I don't really know how the laws have changed, but I know that the behavior of people is more public now. People seem more willing to say things out loud in positive and negative ways. And I think that there's a lot of freedom in being able to express yourself and speak out on what you believe in and how you feel about things, whether it's good or bad.
Today, it's a little bit, two guys can actually hold hands on the street. Yes, you're going to get people that's going to say something.
I think the only laws or rules whether they're spoken or unspoken. I think where that really becomes an issue is in the workforce.
Well, I mean, economically, job-wise, I think I've heard people lose their jobs over being transgendered or gay. I don't know anything in writing yet. Is there anything etched yet in stone? I have no knowledge. I really don't. Maybe you can enlighten me on something, because I'm not familiar. I haven't seen anything etched in stone that said, okay, because you're gay, you cannot do this or that. That would be out of order.
First of all, New York is the most understanding city in the world. It is the greatest city in the world for this stuff. I think that the transgender bathroom stuff is, I don't think it's, to us, it's not a big deal. It's, you know what, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a man, you're a woman, you can use whatever bathroom you want, we accept it. That's New York. I think when we're in other states though, I think it's a little different. So far, being in Orlando and New York and Miami, I haven't seen it being a problem. I know this because I'm a guy walking into a woman's bathroom when I have to go to the bathroom sometimes, and nobody cares. So I honestly don't think in any of those cities, it doesn't matter. In other cities it might, I have not seen a problem with it.
Like, I've done a lot of activism in New York City, and me, I'm fine with them. I don't care. If you want to change your body to fit your gender identity, then go on and do it. I empower you to go do that. If you are a man, go be a man. If you are a female, go be a female. If you have no gender, that is fine. As long as you're not hurting me, killing somebody, raping a child, I don't care. The thing is, the only thing I really care about is people who aren't accepting of the transgender people, because I've used both bathrooms. Believe it or not, in high school, now, I still do it. Listen, when the line is long for the girls' bathroom, I'm going straight to the men's bathroom, like, excuse me, I need to pee. I did that 2 days ago. I went to go see Kupo. That line was long as hell. And I'm like, I got about 9 minutes to get to my movie before it starts. What happened? I went to the guy's bathroom, I took a piss, and I left.
So far, so good. Honey, ain't nobody saying no. Nobody saying no. Not yet. When I went to PA one time, they did look, but then nobody said anything.
When Governor McCrory of North Carolina passed HB2, I think that was a ridiculous law. The transgender bathroom law, as he called it, I think was stupid ridiculous. It's why now we have acceptance of gender-neutral bathrooms all over the country, especially in the major cities. And I think the other, I think 2 more laws that I like to think were crazy was Don't Ask, Don't Tell, back in the Clinton era.
The policy I am announcing today is, in my judgment, the right thing to do and the best way to do it.
And also the Defense of Marriage Act that George W. Bush tried to put through. So I think those are the big 3 in my lifetime I thought were crazy laws to have against LGBT.
I'm here because don't ask, don't tell is wrong. It's unjust. And fundamentally, it is against all that we stand for as Americans.
The notion that we're all created equal, that no matter who you are or what you look like, if you abide by the law, you should be protected by it. If you adhere to our common values, you should be treated no different than anyone else. We must continually renew this promise. This year, I will work with Congress and our military to finally repeal the law that denies gay Americans the right to serve the country they love because of who they are. It's the right thing to do.
Fighting for rights. If I'm fighting for LGBT rights, it's not just a right for me, it's a right for everybody, and it's civil rights, it's human rights. You know, you can't say civil rights for one group of people and then exclude another group of people. It doesn't work that way. It's for everyone. Civil rights is not just of color. It's of all people.
Fighting back for my rights means I have my freedom. It means that I can be who I am, who I want to be, and I have my freedom of speech.
A lot of breaking news here this morning. The breaking story just moments ago, the Supreme Court and this landmark ruling, the court making same-sex marriage legal in this country across every state in this nation. Going into today, 37 states in Washington, D.C., 13 states illegal, but those 37 states had same-sex marriage, and now that will change in all 50 states.
Fighting back for our rights. First, let me say that until now, we never had to fight back for our rights. We had to fight for rights to begin with. Under President Obama, we were able to get marriage federalized, same-sex marriage federalized, and now all 50 states, you can marry your partner if you're gay.
This morning, the Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality.
Gay marriage is now legal in all 50 states.
Now with a Donald Trump presidency, I don't like to say that his name and the word president in the same sentence, but I'll say it here. I think we're going to have to fight back our rights, and now that is going to have meaning. But we're not there yet. Time will tell. Hopefully it won't come to that.
That's right. And this is yet another major shift, reversal of an Obama-era policy. Andrea, President Trump announcing, as you say, on Twitter this morning that effectively transgender service members can no longer serve in the military. That's going to impact those who are currently serving as well as potential recruits. In terms of the numbers, the amount of people it could impact, there's a range. We've seen everywhere from several to as many as 11,000.
That's tough. We have a president elect per se. This is going to be a challenge in the next 4 years, to be quite honest. The perception is it's going to be tough. People just have to understand people first before they make judgment.
Fighting for my rights, I'll tell you what it doesn't mean to me. It doesn't mean how I feel about my rights. It doesn't mean how I feel about the issues going on. For me, fighting back for my rights means taking action. And I mean, the only actions are, conversations, basically. Conversations and interactions with people. That's really what any action is, really that. Even if it's like, I don't know if you heard about the drag queens that blocked traffic in 2011 for marriage equality. I was one of those drag queens. Even blocking traffic, that is a conversation. That is a conversation. It's an interpretive conversation, but that's us basically saying, like, we're fed up, we're not going to take this anymore, and if we're going to be inconvenienced, then so are you. They want to say that they fight for my rights, but it's like, you don't just get to say that so that you feel better. Like, if you want to feel better, go out and take some action so that you know I'm taken care of and you know I'm okay. In the fight for my equal rights, there's two kinds of people. There's people who there's two kinds of people who are on my side. There's people who actively fight for my rights, and then there's people who are just okay with gay people.
All I know from Stonewall is, many years ago, there were many transgender that don't even get the respect due, as well as gay. And they weren't all, no offense, girls, they weren't all white. There was a lot of sisters down there, too, that fought for the right and had that riot to start off the whole thing.
But from Stonewall, I guess it was that, maybe they didn't think it was right to have a gay club.
I know plenty about Stonewall. No one knows everything about Stonewall. A lot of the facts about Stonewall are speculative. But what I do know about Stonewall is that basically Stonewall is a bar that was frequently raided by police. Basically, police had a quota, and police took bribes to not arrest people. So there was a lot of money for a cop in going after gay people and jailing them. You could make a really good living You could make a great living and make forget what you got paid as a cop. The real money was in arresting gay people because they'd pay you off. Or they'd pay you not to. And why wouldn't they pay you? They'd pay you whatever you said, because if I got arrested, my name and face and picture would go in the paper the next day, listed as a sex offender. I could lose my job, my family, my home, everything. It was 1969, June, and it was the wrong day to fuck with us. It was the wrong day to fuck with us. And they tried it, and we were just too sick of it. And we had nothing left to lose, and so we fought back. And that's what happened at Stonewall.
All I know is that police are still got a lot to learn about how to handle members of the LGBT community. They have come a long way since the Stonewall riots back in the 60s. But I think police are trying their best to kind of get along with the LGBT community, but they still have a long way to go, and they have a lot to learn.
The people who fought for our rights, the people who fought for my right to be as gay as I want to be, today, the youngest possible people who were there fighting at Stonewall are today in their 60s and 70s. And when people see that 60 or 70-year-old man at a bar, that man isn't there because he's a pervert. That man isn't there because he's trying to get in your pants. Buy that man a fucking drink and thank him for your rights, because he's there to see freedom in his lifetime. He probably will leave this world before ever seeing full equality for our people. But God damn it, that man wants to see the fruit of his labor, and he wants to see what he fought for. So next time you see someone 60 or over at a bar, not even 60 is not even old, but next time you see someone over 60 at a bar, thank them for your freedom and buy him a drink.
Take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can lift my hands. And I'm gonna praise you. And I'm gonna praise you.
I used to belong to Trinity Church in Northport, and I used to sing in the choir there. And then, I kind of like left and went to another church, which I joined LICF at that time.
It depends on which church. Honestly, it depends on the church.
Everybody's God's child, If you claim to love God, then everybody is a child of God. Why should it be any different?
I know a few. My sister Gloria took me to one on 86th Street. It's LGBT friendly. And there's another in Long Island.
Well, there's a lot of churches I noticed that are accepting LGBT. And, I'm very glad of that, because there are churches out there that are not LGBT accepting. But this is the best one I've been in, that I like the most. Everybody's friendly and kind, and I enjoyed being here, and doing stuff with everyone. It's just somehow very rewarding, because they do more than just serve the LGBT community. They serve the homeless, and everyone that doesn't have food. They have a food pantry. I get involved. I'm closer to this church where I can get involved. Unfortunately, with my other church on Long Island, LICF, I was so far away, there was no way, but it's still a good church. It's a great church.
I don't know. I don't really go to church. I could speculate. I certainly hear stuff now about churches being more open and whatnot, but at the same time, I assume that everyone is. I assume that everyone's like fully embracing me and people like me. But I don't know. I think whatever you want to find evidence for, you'll find. If you want to find evidence that they're more accepting, you'll find it. And if you want to find evidence that hate and intolerance still exists in the church, you'll find it.
Yes, there are churches that are accepting to the LGBT community. There are not the traditional type. Like if you walk into a Catholic church or a Christian church or a Protestant like house of worship, no, they will not accept gays. Because according to the Bible, Leviticus 18:12, chapter and verse, by the way, it's a sin to be gay. So no, but if you go to, but there are non-denominational churches today that if you go, you will be accepted. And there are even LGBT churches. An example is the Long Island Fellowship out in Suffolk, Long Island. Total gay church. The Reverend, I think, is Reverend Gale. Amazing person. And it's a great church to go to. So they're accepting. So there's two types.
But as far as I've seen, the Catholics, Christians, they've gotten better and worse at the same time period. Because now in Catholic Church, if you are gay, you all get kicked out. Or if, let's say you be like in a religious setting and you want to have religious views, they won't accept you there.
I would have to say from my experience, there are certain churches that are very accepting. Unitarian Universalist churches that I've been to, they don't even, some of them don't even use the word church, they use community or congregation, and I feel comfortable with them.
I never liked church because they didn't accept everybody. They were always, you know, every church had their own different various groups, and I thought, if you're of God, why aren't everybody together? You know, to me, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish, you're Muslim, you're Christian, you know, it shouldn't matter. You know, it just shouldn't matter.
Now it's just like society says that they accept gays, but it's kind of like they pushed it under the rug. Yes, we have our rights. Yes, we now kind of more accepted around the general area, but we still have that kind of darkness where people just like, you still a faggot though. Or you're still gay though, and that's still not okay with the Lord. And I always tell these people, like, look in your book, look in your Bible. I want to see, point out where it says God hates all gays. If God hated gay, why would he create us? Then be like, oh, it's right here. And I'm like, no, that's something else.
Nobody should be picked on or beat up, you know, because they're gay or because they're different, because somebody's a different race or from a different part of the world. No one should be doing that to anybody. That's just, if you say you love God, like I say, God loves everybody. He made everyone. He created a rainbow. He liked the variety. Okay, so why are you hating? You know, it doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't make sense to hate this one or that one. You know, it just doesn't make sense.
Read the Gospels. You know, everybody thumps the Bible. Read the Gospels. The teachings of Christ, the life of Christ, the books of the Gospel. And it's never mentioned once. In fact, Christ talks about love. It's very interesting. They carry this Bible in one hand and hatred in the other hand and said it's sinful. Christ himself said nothing about it.
I don't know the Bible all that well, but I'm sure there must be some reference in the Bible to...
In the teachings of Paul, whose own life is questionable, there's reference to it. But the Gospels, which is Christianity, you know, Jesus, his life and his teaching, it is never, ever even hinted at, suggested, or even in any kind of context can you find anything like that. Just the opposite.
Okay.
Christ says, love thy neighbor.
Okay.
Do unto the neighbor as you'd want the neighbor to do unto you.
Okay.
And so these people who thump the Bible have never really read the Bible, the Gospels.
Well, I'm not a Bible thumper, but...
To the Bible thumpers, to those who are out there, reread the Gospels and live the life of the Gospels, and you would do what Christ says, is to accept everyone. It is so ironic that these people carry the Bible in one hand and anti-Christ attitudes in the other. We've seen 4 states, cities throw out gay rights bills. So now 38 cities have them. 5 years ago, none.
Okay, so how close are you then to the gay community, do you feel?
Well, there's no one person spokesperson with the gay community. How close am I to the gay community? Nobody can be close to the entire gay community because we go from the extreme left to the extreme right. And I am a good old-fashioned Harry Truman, Adlai Stevenson Democrat. I sit in the middle. Those on the extreme left think I'm too conservative. Those on the extreme right think I'm too liberal. What has happened is that the progressive liberal movement of this nation, of the human rights movement, has gone 6 steps forward and 1 step backward.
I always just imagine that in Roman culture, gays we had our dicks out or we had them in each other's hands, and there was bathhouses, and there wasn't anything culturally seen as wrong.
Ancient times, Rome and Greece. Gotta love those movies. Homosexuality was not even, it was just every day for society back then. I mean, you had the aristocrats from both societies always having guys by their side and having sex. To them, it was an accepted thing, and still they managed to be married and have a wife or something along the lines.
I would imagine when they had bathhouses and men wore togas, I would imagine that pretty much everybody looked the same anyway, so it wouldn't have been an issue, right?
I think in Rome it was more accepting, I mean, at least during Tiberius and Caligula's time. I don't think in Julius's time, but I think in his stepson Tiberius's time and his nephew Caligula, yeah, it was probably more accepting. Because Caligula himself was gay, and Tiberius, I believe, Tiberius was bisexual. So it was more accepting.
Most Roman men are bisexual, from my knowledge. Most of the Roman emperors had everybody.
Like Greece, since Zeus fucked everybody and anybody, they maybe became more accepting of gays. I don't know.
Exactly, a Roman toga, and if you were handsome and you were Greek, strong and virile, and they're gonna go both ways, in one end and out the other end.
I'll take a random guess and say it was pretty bad, maybe. I'm pretty sure people got, stoned for it. Or whatever punishment they gave in Rome. In Greece. I feel like I think it was the Romans that were more acceptable, or maybe the Greece. Maybe they both were acceptable at the same time.
I think back then it was very accepted, and I think that after Rome and Greece, when we finally had established religion, I think is when homosexuality became taboo.
I used to think that the more time goes on, the more okay we'll be with homosexuality. But the truth is, there had to be a time before we had language when we couldn't distinguish homosexuality as different or odd or gross because we had no language for it. It was only in language that we invented a conversation about that's wrong, that's gross, that's unnatural. It's only in language that we've created that agreement in the world. So I wonder if there was a time centuries ago when we weren't born into a conversation about faggots, when we weren't born into a conversation about, fucking pedophiles and they're rapists and all these things that they want to say about gays were pedophiles and were rapists. It's like, you realize that statistically that is more of a heterosexual phenomenon, right?
The Chief Legal Officer of the State of California has written us a letter which I would like to read to you. He says the problem of homosexuality is age-old. In ancient Greece and Rome, this condition was apparently accepted as a way of life. In this country, the opposite is true.
To dispel part of this stereotype picture, we've formed the Mattachine Society, which has as its purpose work in education, research, and social service in this whole homosexual problem. The word Mattachine comes from the language of Provence in southern Europe. It actually means little fool. The Mattachines in the medieval ages were the court jesters, the clowns, the soothsayers, the teachers, prophets who stood behind the throne and could often speak the truth in spite of stern consequences.
The Dutch resistance, the gays were like, we're here, we're ready to fight for our country. The Dutch resistance didn't want them. Their own country was like, I don't want faggots fighting with us. I want faggots alongside me as I'm fighting back. So there was a movement, and this musical was about them and their history, and I was honored to get to play them. But there was a movement of gays who were like, our own country doesn't want us, the Germans want us killed, no one wants us, we still have to fight for our country. And so they fought, they would like entrap Nazi soldiers and like try to find the gay ones, and then they would like hook up with them. Or some of them would be drag queens and they would like lure them into a gay bar and like have sex with them. And as soon as they did, they're like, great, so I'm going to tell everyone you're a faggot unless you work for us or unless you whatever. I know that they used a symbol, they used a series of symbols to identify prisoners. And I don't remember what all the triangles were, but there was many triangles.
Yeah, because didn't he make the Jews wear the triangle to prove that they were Jews? And someone had brought that about doing that with the gay community, having to wear some sort of symbol.
The pink triangle was used to mean, homosexuals. Yeah, and we've, not to erase our history, but we've adopted that and made that a positive thing, a symbol for us.
It stems back from the times of the Holocaust, where the Jews and the gays were in concentration camps. It's also the symbol that I think ACT UP in New York kind of uses now as well. But that's the generality of it that I know.
Visited Buchenwald concentration camp. Some people believe that the reports of what happened there are exaggerated. No words could exaggerate. We saw and we know.
After the camps were liberated in World War II, the Jews were set free, the Gypsies were set free, the laborers, whoever, the socialists, they were set free. The homosexuals were taken directly to prison. If you were lucky enough to not be murdered, if you were lucky enough to survive a concentration camp, congratulations, the war is over, we're liberating everyone, hey faggots, right this way, here's your jail cell.
How important do you think sex was in Hitler's life?
I don't think it was very important. Nobody knows exactly what is in the secret drawers of a human soul, yes. We do not know that.
So you have to understand that as a gay person, I am a person who knows that there is nothing to stop my government from changing their mind. There's nothing to stop my government from saying, yeah, I'm going to round you up and detain you. I'm going to round you up and kill you. I'm going to round you up and legislate against you. I don't think people get that this is a real fear, and it's not just a real fear, it's a real threat. It's a real danger that we face.
I have a flag on my house, and it's actually not a little one, it's a large one, full size. It is chartreuse, white and purple. And I really like the colors, but I also like the meaning behind it. And mostly this description falls under non-binary or gender fluid. And I don't feel that I should hide who I am. I had a rainbow flag in front of my house at one point. I kept hanging the little ones at the end of the driveway, and people kept stealing them, and I don't know who was stealing them, but I started writing messages on them. So when somebody stole my flag, they would have to read the message, and I can't repeat now what it said because it wasn't very nice. I do like the flag that I have, and I would say that there's still not a lot of awareness of what they mean. So it's nice to have someone say, wow, that's a really nice flag. What does it mean? But I know that it in the category of flags, it falls alongside of the light blue, pink, and white one. which I think is mostly for bisexuality, so that's fine.
Well, you know, it's funny. I have come out, I've known I was gay since I was 14. I have pretty much fooled around my first guy when I was 17. I've come to terms with being gay at 18, and I pretty much didn't totally come out of the closet until I was 21. I came out to my family in 2008. My whole life, everybody keeps saying to me, CJ, I wouldn't think you were gay if I saw you on the street. You do not look gay. That's because I love guys. I am a homosexual, but just because I'm gay doesn't mean I'm flamboyant, and I also am a stereotypical gay. I love sports, I love music, I love adventure, I love travel, I love video games. I'm a total geek. But when it comes to your traditional gay culture, I am the worst. To me, a shoe is a shoe, a shirt is a shirt. A painting is cool, I like it or I don't. Most gay people are so detailed and they go into that. I've just never been that guy. Talk about politics. If we talk politics, I'm good. If we talk about sports, I'm good. Music, I'm good. Pop culture, I'm good. But I'm not your typical gay guy. And I'm proud of that. But sometimes I think it's very hard to be accepted by your own when you're not in that whole cultured inner circle of it.
I will say that there is a long road ahead. I'm not going to lie about that. I think we got set back. This election set us back. At least psychologically, the perception of how people perceive one another and just come out and say anything to anybody. Do not misperceive because someone is LGBT. That might be the person to save your life.